repeat it and often, but the president's view is that he believes that there should be a path forward for Democrats and Republicans to work together to get the job done on behalf of the American public, whether that is voting rights and ensuring that more people have access to voting rights, or whether that is moving forward on other priority items for him.
$28 trillion in debt. Whose fault is it? Republicans, Democrats? The answer is yes. Yes on both fronts. Both parties are responsible for the debt. Now, one side is honest about it. One side will tell you they don't give a fig about the debt.
So what is going on with the fourth round of stimulus payments? What details have been finalized so far? And will you be eligible for a fourth stimulus check? Well, in this video, everybody, I'll be clearing up all the confusion surrounding your stimulus checks, and of course the fourth stimulus bill. But first, everybody, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and give this video a like. On this channel, I will always be providing you with the most up-to-date and reliable stimulus check news. And everybody, if you support a stimulus check of $1,000 a month, then let's get this video to 1,000 likes. So an online petition calling on the federal government to provide people with $2,000 monthly checks amid the crisis has topped more than 2.3 million signatures. The change.org petition was started back in 2020 by a restaurant owner in Colorado, and the owner points to the ongoing economic struggles caused when the crisis shut down businesses and left many out of work. While the push for additional funds continue, many in Congress have already expressed support for a fourth round of stimulus payments. The first was approved in March 2020 and paid up to $1,200 for individuals and $2,400 for married couples. The second came in December 2020 and was $600. The third paid up to $1,400 for individuals and $2,000 for married couples, and was distributed starting in March 2021. But the most recent letter that the Biden administration has received on additional stimulus payments was from the House Ways and Means Committee. 7 Democrats called for a fourth and fifth round of direct payments to assist people with housing, food, and other payments. The committee oversees government budgeting and taxation, and the group that signed the letter represents about 15% of the committee's members. The letter stated, families and workers shouldn't have to worry about whether they'll have enough money to pay for essentials in the months ahead as the country continues to fight a global crisis and recession. The lawmakers are also interested in passing recurring monthly relief checks. They wrote, recurring direct payments have wide support from both the general public and economic experts. Polling shows 65% of Americans support recurring cash payments for the duration of the crisis, and this includes support from 54% of Republicans and 60% of independents. More than 150 economists recently wrote an open letter supporting automatic stabilizers as part of a strong recovery and warning against repeating the mistakes of the Great Recession, when an insufficient response led to unnecessary suffering, particularly among low-income workers. What are your thoughts on this, everybody? Should the stimulus checks be passed out? Leave a comment down below saying yes or no. Everybody, the fourth stimulus check amount depends on several factors, and when it's passed, it would probably look similar to the previous checks, although that's not guaranteed. The third stimulus check, which the IRS is still in the process of distributing, is worth up to $1,400. It's worth up to $1,400 per person, although the eligibility requirements are narrower. All 3 checks gave the full amount to taxpayers who made up to $75,000 a year, according to the most recent tax returns. Couples filing jointly got the full payment if they had a joint total income of $150,000 or less. It is likely that the eligibility requirements for a fourth stimulus check will be similar to the third round of stimulus payments. And that means if you received a $1,400 stimulus check, it is likely that you will also receive a fourth stimulus check once it is passed. Right now, there is no fourth stimulus check timeline. Until legislation is in motion, we can't say how soon more relief money might arrive. That said, the third stimulus check timeline happened rather quickly, following Biden's inauguration on January 20th. It only took a few weeks for Congress to debate his American Rescue Plan, and once the president signed a bill on March 11th, $1,400 checks were put into motion. The IRS can begin sending out fourth stimulus checks in the same manner that it sent the previous stimulus payments, but many American families will begin receiving monthly checks in July, an expansion of the child tax credit. Payments will be made monthly in $250 or $300 installments starting July 15th and running through December. The reminder can be claimed as a credit on 2021 taxes when they are filed in 2022. Now folks, that's all the news in this video. If you support a fourth stimulus check, if you support the fourth stimulus payment, and an increase in your Social Security benefits, don't forget to give this video a like, everybody.
New tonight, as many Americans are hoping for a fourth stimulus check, some lawmakers are already talking about a fifth one. Members of a powerful congressional committee are calling for additional rounds of economic relief from the federal government for those still struggling during the coronavirus pandemic. With a third round of $1,400 stimulus checks behind us, a letter sent last week to President Joe Biden from 7 Democrats on the House Ways and Means Committee calls for a 4th round and 5th round of direct payments to assist people with housing, food, and other payments. The committee oversees government budgeting and taxation.
With the third round of stimulus checks behind us, a letter sent late last week to President Joe Biden calling for a 4th and 5th round of direct payments to assist people with housing, food, and other payments.
Democrats argue families need the money, what economists are saying could be the best road to recovery.
A 4th and 5th check could keep an additional 12 million out of poverty. Direct payments could reduce the number in poverty in 2021 from 44 to 16.
Some lawmakers are now pushing for a 4th round of stimulus aid that would send recurring payments until the pandemic ends. That's because despite federal assistance, millions of Americans are struggling financially.
At the top 1%, now is the time to pass a budget which works for working families and the middle class and not just the wealthy. What the Republicans are proposing for traditional infrastructure is only a fraction of what we need.
And you hear Republicans throughout the land campaigning against the debt, only to come to Washington and vote for most of the debt. So what we end up with is a $28 trillion debt. We actually borrow more in a month than we used to borrow in a year. In March of this year, we borrowed $660 billion in 1 month. The proposals for spending are alarming. We have spent and borrowed more in the last 2 years than we did during World War II. There are going to be repercussions of so much borrowing in such a short period of time. We are seeing a misallocation of capital throughout the economy. We are seeing a grossly inflated stock market. We are starting to see inflation throughout the supply chain, throughout the economy. There are going to be repercussions. The question we have to ask ourselves are we willing to look at the example of countries like Venezuela or Zimbabwe that completely destroyed their currency? People say that couldn't happen in America. It largely hasn't happened because we've been the reserve currency of the world. We've been fortunate. People describe it as having the cleanest shirt in a closet full of dirty shirts. The dollar is weakened by such extravagant spending, and yet people still cling to the dollar because the other currencies are weaker. But this bill simply adds more to the debt. And we say we're going to combat China through this bill, but we're going to combat China by increasing a department of government, the National Science Foundation, that is actually probably one of the most wasteful agencies in government. William Proxmire was a conservative Democrat from Wisconsin